What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Since it's a Monday after a game, albeit a loss and not a good game, and the Packers are now 2-5 heading into week 9, it is still time to go over the PFF grades on both offense and defense from yesterday's game. And if you do like this sort of video, make sure to leave a like down below so I know to keep making them. I know obviously with the Packers losing, it's not as fun to look at the PFF grades from some of these games, but they actually did have some very high rated players in this game via PFF. So I like looking at these grades to give a little bit more context on the game. You know, when you watch the game, there's certain players that really stand out. For me, it was TJ Slayton, Preston Smith on that defense, and then Jaden Reed on the offense really stood out as well. So I like to dive down into these grades to give more context, as well as look at pressures allowed, pressures by defenders, and the coverage matchups. Gentlemen across the nation, I have an urgent message to you. This episode is brought to you today by Manscaped. The brand that took your balls to space is now launching them into the Ultrasphere by releasing the new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, featuring a new cutting-edge design and next-generation dual skin-safe blade heads for different types of shaves. It's pretty much a spaceship to take your boys downstairs to the next level. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra by heading to manscaped.com and using my code BASS20 to get 20% off plus free shipping. I was actually one of the first to give the Lawnmower 5.0 a try, and I'll tell you this, it's a game changer. What I really enjoy about the new Lawnmower 5.0 is the fact that it has two blade heads. The normal blade head, which we're all used to, and also the foil shaver here for a smooth finish anywhere you desire. The 5.0 also comes with 3 blade guards for 3 different lengths, and it's also waterproof. So get 20% off plus free shipping using code BASS20 at manscaped.com and pick yourself up a Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code BASS20 at manscaped.com, or simply click the link down in the description. Your balls have been through enough. It's time to go ultra with Manscaped. All right, so let's dive down into the PFF grades. Week 8 Packers versus Vikings. We're going to start on the defense because there are actually some really highly graded players on the defensive side of the ball in this game. And I was saying it in my post-game reaction that this game, again, really wasn't on the defense. Now, the pass defense was not good, but the running defense I thought was exceptional yesterday. Now, the Minnesota Vikings running offense isn't anything to write about. They're not great generally, so take that as you will, but I still thought it was a very impressive performance by the Packers defense in terms of stopping the run. At the top of the list here, we see Preston Smith with a 92.8. As I said, he was one of those players that during yesterday's game, I was going, this guy's having a good game, just like TJ Slayton, who's actually third on this list. So Preston Smith, a phenomenal game. 92.8 grade, 91.3 pass rush, and actually a 91.5 coverage grade. Shout out cornerback 1 Preston Smith covering TJ Hawkinson on the goal line, forcing an incompletion. That's our cornerback 1. Had 5 total pressures, 2 sacks, 2 hits, 3 stops, and allowed 0 receptions on a target. So great game for Preston Smith. Devontae Wyatt, number 2 on this list with an 89.6. I believe that's his highest graded game of the year. Honestly, might be his highest graded game of his career. But as we see here, week 1, he had an 82.5. This week is his highest graded game, an 89.6. Devontae Wyatt also had 3 total pressures and a tackle. Nice pass rush grade, nice run defense grade, nice tackle grade. TJ Slayton, 3rd highest graded defender on the Packers, an 82.3. I expected him to be in the top 3. Honestly, I thought he'd be number 1, but it's hard to beat a 92.8 grade that Preston Smith has. And I thought this was an excellent game for TJ Slayton. He only had 1 pressure, but he was more so seen in the run defense game. 7 tackles. He did miss 1 tackle. If he didn't miss that tackle, he might have somewhere near a 90 overall grade. Going into TJ Slayton, that is also his best game this year so far via PFF. Then we see Devondre Campbell 4th on this list. A really nice return from Devondre Campbell, who had an amazing 92.2 run defense grade, 78.8 overall grade, 85.8 pass rush grade, had 1 pressure, 10 total tackles, 4 assists, 1 miss. He led the team in tackles yesterday and was part of the reason why this run defense looked so good. It was really nice to get Devondre Campbell back there. I feel like we haven't seen much of, Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell yet this year. And, having both of those guys healthy and available to play, I think will help this defense a lot moving forward. Colby Wooden only had 14 snaps. What was next highest on this list? Number 5 at 75.7 grade. He had 1 pressure. Quay Walker, 6th on this list, so 2 linebackers in the top 6. Quay Walker, 71.6. Lucas Van Ness saw more snaps in this game, 26 total snaps, and had a nice grade, 70.2. He had 1 bat down. That's really the only stat that he had, but still a nice grade here. Rudy Ford, 65.4. He's been consistent most of this year. Anthony Johnson Jr., again, only saw 4 snaps. I thought this would go way up with Savage being placed on IR, but I guess not. So we'll see what the other snap counts are. Obviously, John Owens took Darnell Savage's place and stayed there. Keyshawn Nixon, a 60.3. He just hasn't been good all year. If we go into his player profile here, a 56.4 overall grade. I believe that's 91st. That's the 91st ranked cornerback via PFF, and he just hasn't been good. He allowed, I think, 6 receptions on 8 targets in this game. We'll go down the coverage matchups right after this, so stay tuned for that. Kenny Clark, 57.0, so still a poor game from Kenny Clark. He did have 3 pressures and a sack, and we know the song and dance with PFF and Kenny Clark. I feel like they just never rate him well. Like, even if Kenny Clark had 6 pressures here and 2 sacks, I feel like he still wouldn't be rated well. JJ Nigbare, poor game here. He had that one roughing the passer as well, 55.9 here. Jair, another poor game, 55.0, got beat by Addison a decent bit. We'll, again, go into the coverage matchups. John Owens comes in as a starter at safety opposite Rudy Ford. Doesn't have a good overall grade, a 54.2. Has a good tackle grade, though, 81.9. So at least he's able to tackle and didn't miss any tackles. Rashawn Gary, pretty low here after getting a nice extension this morning. This is a surprise to see him this low. Usually he's at the opposite side. He still did have 2 pressures, but that's a little low for him from what we're used to seeing, especially considering this is the most snaps he received all year at 46 total snaps, nearing that 60 to 65% total snap share that all the other linebackers get. Preston Smith had 47 total snaps. Rashawn Gary had 46, so not that much difference there. Rashawn Gary should get upwards of 50 to 60, depending how many snaps the defense plays, but he should get more moving forward. Rasul Douglas, also a low grade here, 47.4. And then finally, the lowest graded player, my man Carl Brooks, 41.2 on 22 total snaps, 5 total pressures. But hey, at least he did block a field goal, so that at least is good. All right, so now going into the coverage matchups, like I said, we were going to. Keyshawn Nixon allowed, like we said, 6 receptions on 8 targets for 60 yards. He allowed a reception to Hawkinson and Addison, 4 to KJ Osborne, and was targeted for Brandon Powell, but didn't allow a reception to him. Jair, as we see here, allowed 5 receptions on 5 targets for 52 yards and a touchdown to Jordan Addison. So when Kirk Cousins was targeting Jordan Addison against Jair, he had a perfect passer rating. He also allowed 1 reception on 2 targets to KJ Osborne. Devondre Campbell allowed 6 receptions on 7 targets for 57 yards. So not great in the coverage game, although he was great in the run defense game. Rasul Douglas allowed 5 receptions on 6 targets for 83 yards. This Packers pass defense got torn up yesterday. Kirk Cousins, had an excellent game, and their scheme was awesome against this Packers defense, and they converted so many 3rd and longs. Like, it was ridiculous yesterday. The defense, the pass defense in that regard, needs to play more aggressive. The bend but don't break defense only works when your offense can go and score points after it. So the Packers need to play more aggressive on defense, and even if that results in a long touchdown by the offense, hey, they were going to score anyways probably, so you might as well try to be aggressive, rush the passer, jump some routes, and maybe create some turnovers, which they haven't been able to do pretty much all year. John Owens allowed 3 receptions on 4 targets for 33 yards, and there's our main man, Preston Smith, cornerback 1. Didn't allow a single reception on the 1 target to Hawkinson. Now flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, at the top of the list is Elton Jenkins. And, yesterday in my post-game reaction, I was pretty much talking about the offensive line and said Elton Jenkins needs to play better. I was obviously mistaken. It seems like Elton Jenkins had a really, really good game yesterday, and I think I was more so, biased on that from the Denver game when he had a really poor game, and just overall yesterday, the interior of the offensive line didn't look good because of how bad had Josh Myers and John Runyon played, so kind of made it look bad. But hey, Elton Jenkins, looks like he had a good game, 76.5, 90.5 pass block, still a little iffy in the run block game, as is every other lineman on this team. Zach Tom, number 2, he's usually up here. He's been consistent all year, 68.4 grade, and then it starts to drop way down towards like average to below average. So the offense, barely any good grades, whereas we saw in the defense have some nice grades on defense. AJ Dillon, 64.2. Jordan Love, 63.7. I feel like he's just always at this mark. So, Jordan Love isn't playing out of this world by any means, but he isn't playing god awful. Like, the Packers in contested catches situations, I think, are 20%. Whereas usually with a contested catch situation, you call it a 50-50 ball for a reason. You want to be around 50% when you throw them up. That's usually what the Packers are. I think last year they're at 48% on 50-50 ball situations. I think they're at 20% right now and are barely converting any. And the Packers, that's not helping Jordan Love either. When he throws a 50-50 ball and it hits Christian Watson right in the hands and they don't come up with it, or Jaden Reed and it ends up in an interception. Romeo Doubs has been the only player on this offense that's been able to win some. We see Tay Wicks here at a 63.4. I'm sure it'd be a lot higher if he caught that slant. Romeo Doubs is 62.4. Jaden Reed, 58.9. Expected Reed to be higher based on the game he had. He did have a drop, and I'm sure some other issues, but expected him to be higher there. John Runyon at 57.6, and the same song and dance. Good pass blocker, 80.7. Horrible run blocker, 43.2. Luke Musgrave, a 56.6. Watson, a 55.9. Man, Christian Watson needs to step up. I mean, there's multiple occasions in that game that he had very catchable balls and instances where Jordan Love was giving him a shot and it hit him right in the hands. Yes, the defense played excellent coverage on him at times and did a good job punching the ball away, but Christian Watson was supposed to be, a top target for Jordan Love, a number 1 or at least a number 2 wide receiver, and it simply just hasn't been that. And the Packers, really haven't been, even using him the right way. And I know Jordan Love has accuracy issues, and on one of which I think was actually a slot fade, and he missed them up the right sideline. So they're just not on the same page right now. Josh Nijman had a 55.7, Samori Torre 55.0, Josh Myers a 54.6 with poor pass blocking and even worse run blocking. Aaron Jones at 54.2. Rasheed Walker a 53.0. Was only out there for 18 snaps, so got benched for Josh Nijman. Ben Sims a 46.1. Tucker Kraft a 41.0 with only 19 snaps. And Josiah DeGuara only had 5 snaps, so it seems like they're starting to really remove him from this offense and bring in Tucker Kraft more, who didn't grade much higher. But Josiah DeGuara has been on the bottom here like pretty much every game, I think, but one, which is just insane. I mean, at this point, yes, he's a bust, right? The Packers spent a 3rd-round pick on him, just like every other 3rd-round pick. They just haven't worked at this point. The Packers should trade away their 3rd-round pick. They should just do it. To finalize things, going over pressures allowed for the offensive line, although Zach Tom was graded highly, he actually allowed 4 pressures. As we see here, he was the leading pressures allowed lineman in yesterday's game. Josh Myers allowed 3. Josh Nijman allowed 2. Aaron Jones allowed 1. And Rasheed Walker also allowed 1. The 4 sacks on Jordan Love, 1 from Zach Tom, 1 from Myers, 1 from Josh, and 1 from Walker. So the offensive line just as a whole wasn't really great yesterday. So those are all the grades. Packers versus Vikings week 8. Like I said, some really nice grades on defense and not so much on offense. If you guys want to see a midseason grade roundup on PFF, let me know in the comments below and I'll make that video probably tomorrow to see where all the players rank in accordance to around the league. I think that'll be an interesting one to dive into. But that about does it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching. If you did, please leave a like down below, but I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.